Thank you so much for stopping in. Do you guys recall, about, it seems like maybe a year, for sure a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, I did a group regression and I did a video about what this group saw. I'm not sure if you know, but I am trained with the Dolores Cannon QHHT group or regression. Anyway, so I did a group regression. And I've been thinking about that group regression, and it seemed like it was about a year and a half ago. In the group regressions, I didn't go back and look or anything, but I think we usually don't go 50 years in advance or anything like that when you're putting people into a regression. I think we ask 100 or 200, maybe 100 years, and then we go and we ask a 200 years, maybe 500 years. I'm not sure. But in this case, I'm sure, I know I asked for them to look out 100 years and then 200 years. And, in a certain way, you can really kind of, in a certain way, it is remote viewing. That's what these people were doing. Anyway, the majority of the participants, actually, I think all of the participants saw their current existence with advanced technology. They saw themselves as they are now, 100 years in advance, but things were just more technology, had more innovations, more technology in their life. They saw, I'm going to try to remember these. They saw buildings, high rises. They saw single family homes. They saw buildings. They saw roads, the way we have roads, highways, freeways. They saw male and female relationships. They saw families gathering around a kitchen table, which was kind of interesting. A second, I was just interrupted. So they saw themselves gathering around tables, having family time. They saw weather. They saw grass, trees, streams. They saw cars, vans, trucks. They also saw moving sidewalks. The difference right now is everything to us, everything is solid. Everything's solid, concrete, propulsion driven, that everything, well, besides the newest cars and trucks, it's always been propulsion, I think propulsion energy. I think that's the right word. And then what they saw were cars that moved with new magnetic energy and levitation. So the vision that they talked about where it was a car, it had tires, they still metaphorically saw the car in the regression. They saw the car as a car that we know today, but it glided. It didn't roll on the ground with friction, it glided. I'm just trying to remember these things, but because I think it's just really interesting. They also saw themselves wearing easy clothes, easy clothing. It wasn't fitted and it wasn't floppy, but it seemed to be the fabric that was softer, more comfortable. And then a couple of them explained the building that they were in, and they were mostly glass. The buildings were mostly glass. They were still high rises, like I said before, but the structures seemed similar. Okay, so one of them lived in a high rise, but it was mostly glass. And then looking from the outside in, it was just the smaller frame, really lightweight, but strong framing that held windows. So you could see as much as you could see. And when you're inside looking out, you could see as much as you could see. So you had that. They still wanted the view of outside while they were inside, the way we like it today. They also talked about the interiors of their homes or apartments, whatever it was that they were talking about. And they seemed to talk about it seemed like it was wood, but it was soft. It was very simple, not a lot of furniture, but very simple furniture with soft features, pillows. So it was wood, but with pillows, wood frames with lots of pillows. Um, and then it seems like there was a couple of one of the gals that was regressed in the group. She had a relationship with a man. So she was a female in that coming life. And she kind of said it seemed like they telepathically talked because there weren't any phones. I think she mentioned there are no phones, but there was still a way to communicate. Um, and I think above it all, the participants did not see devastation of the earth. They did not see that. They saw themselves here the way they are here, 100, 200 years in the future. And they didn't see themselves in spacesuits. I guess that's the way I would explain it. They didn't see themselves in spacesuits. They weren't on oxygen. They weren't on another planet. They were on the planet that they're familiar with, Earth. And they had improved. I mean, they are in a new energy. That's when now that we are here today, I'm seeing that whole regression, that whole group regression in a new light. So they still had a family unit that they shared times together with. One participant lived in an underground home. It was built into the hill, kind of like, the visuals of gnomes, or I don't know what they are, where they live in homes that are built into the side of a hill. So that's where this woman saw herself in 100 years. It was built into a hill that opened onto a field, a green field. There were trees and there was a stream. And she was self-sufficient in that life. She was a male and she was that soul life in the future was self-sufficient. And everybody seemed comfortable in their physical body. So then, and I think the reason I was thinking about that is because, I mean, it's the information we've received recently when you are talking about future applications of the mechanical learnings, which are the videos I've recently done, is they're saying you learned mechanical so that you can understand energy for the future use. I want you to keep that view that we were given by the participants of the group regression in mind. Because there's no devastation. We're the same kind of person we are now, except we have those advanced abilities where we can telepathically talk to each other. We might be in another life, but it's still our soul. It's still our soul energy that is rewarded, has that reward, that feeling of reward, because we've wanted to telepathically talk to people. And I think in this current lifetime, most of us are young enough to have another 20 or so years left. I think we're going to see some of that. I just personally think that. So basically, when I look back, it's a very significant what we're learning from our channelings now and looking back on that regression. The messages that we're receiving from our universal energy team are significant. They're telling us significant energetic changes are happening. We're in it. And we are also coming into the times when we're going to start seeing the revolutionary effects of what our transition and transformations are, the things that are happening now. That was a year and a half ago that we did that. That's not that long ago. We're in a time of innovations. They will be advancing dramatically. And we have to be accepting of the changes and that it is benevolent. We have to know that. That's the predictions. I started earlier today, I started writing something and it's talked about predictions. I don't predict. We get messages from my universal energy team. And I do think that some of them are predictions. When we look back, they were telling us. So I don't call it predictions, but we really were given predictions. We have to know that what is happening is benevolent. And that group of people that did the regression going into the future 100, 200 years, they did not see a catastrophic event. And they were happy and they were content and they lived in a more advanced society. They still had family, they still had a society, they still did work. They seemed to be really happy in their work. It wasn't drudgery. I don't know if that's the right word. So, what we are learning today is telling us confirmed that we are in a transition, but we won't see it until we're another year out, another 2 years out when we look back. Seems to me that the information I get is about a year and a half or so in advance, and I'm okay with that because it gives me time to adjust. It gives me time to get it in my head. It gives me time to think about it. So those people who did the regression, they obviously don't live another 100 or 200 years in their current body. Maybe they do. Maybe they do. But these people were back on Earth again. They were comfortable. They had a comfortable life. They were happy and they were contented. I know I said that once other time, but I think that's really interesting. And somehow that year and a half is now connecting with the information we're getting today. That's it. That's all I have for you today. Thank you for stopping in. And please stay tuned because there's a lot more to come.